A Native American of the Sac and Fox Nations, Jim Thorpe was one of the most versatile athletes of modern times. As a football player, he received All-America honors at the Carlisle Indian School in 1911 and 1912. Also in 1912, Thorpe won Olympic gold medals in both the pentathlon and decathlon. But soon after, he was stripped of those medals when it was learned that he had accepted money to play baseball as a teenager. Thorpe went on to successful careers in professional baseball and football, and he is enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The final chapter of the Jim Thorpe story was not written until 1982, when nearly 30 years after his death, the Olympic Committee finally voted to restore his medals.
In the fall of 1924, the public's interest in football was awakened by the sensational breakaway running of a University of Illinois halfback named Red Grange.
His first game, 36,000 people showed up. I mean, nobody had drawn those kinds of numbers before. He gave the whole idea of pro football validity. He made people want to watch it.
You just met up with the shiftiest hips in football.
We're 80 years later, and if you mention the name Red Grange, people know who you're talking about. And you look back on his statistics, they look pretty ordinary, but you measure him by impact and what he did to advance the sport, and that's why people remember him.
Eddie Shore was probably hated in every arena except Boston, and people only hate the great players. And he was one of the greats. I don't care what they say, whether they didn't like him. He had something about him that even if you knew nothing about hockey and you went to a game, you'd say, there's the guy that stands out. And it was just the way he took charge of everything. He was in control. He was the Bobby Orr of his day.
Eddie Shore joined the Boston Bruins in 1926, and for 14 years was one of the stalwarts of the team's defense. Aggressive and controversial, Shore was one of the early rushing defensemen who could bring the fans to their feet. 4 times he was judged the most valuable player in the NHL. And off the ice, the fans adored him.
Born in 1903, Fred Bun Cook honed his hockey skills in his hometown of Kingston, Ontario. He made his debut with the New York Rangers in the franchise's first season, and the famous bread line was born. The three went on to play 10 seasons together, establishing themselves as one of the most successful trios in league history. In 1928, his second year with the Blue Shirts, Cook proved instrumental in the Rangers' first ever Stanley Cup win. Following 4 very successful seasons and a second-team All-Star appearance in 1931, Cook and the Rangers returned to the Stanley Cup Final in 1933 and proved too strong for the Toronto Maple Leafs.